Today's psalm is well known and very familiar since it is recited in the Jewish liturgy and in the worship service every morning, weekdays, holidays, and Shabbat as an introduction to the preliminary service consisting of additional psalms that themselves introduce or serve as kind of a warm up for the main event, which is the more formal morning service. So I read for you now Psalm 30, a psalm of David, a song for the dedication of the house. I extol you, O Lord, for you have lifted me up and not let my enemies rejoice over me. O Lord, my God, I cried out to you and you healed me. O Lord, you brought me up from Sheol, preserved me from going down into the pit. O you faithful of the Lord, sing to him and praise his holy name. For he is angry but a moment, and when he is pleased, there is life. One may lie down weeping at nightfall, but at dawn there are shouts of joy. When I was untroubled, I thought, I shall never be shaken. For you, O Lord, when you were pleased, made me firm as a mighty mountain. When you hid your face, I was terrified. I called to you, O Lord. To my Lord I made appeal. What is to be gained from my death, from my descent into the pit? Can dust praise you? Can it declare your faithfulness? Hear me, O Lord, and have mercy on me. O Lord, be my help. You turned my lament into dancing. You undid my sackcloth and girded me with joy, that my whole being must sing hymns to you endlessly. O Lord, my God, I will praise you forever. This is an individual who has experienced great suffering and despair. He has experienced having been vanquished by his enemies, but also he has known what it feels like to slip into or descend into a deep depression, a deep state of mood, despair, and darkness. He declares, O Lord, you brought me up from Sheol, preserved me from going down into the pit. He knows what it feels like to be down in the pit. He cried out to God, and God healed him. God, as a healer, is also, in a way, the great psychiatrist on high, the infinite and eternal healer. And he has been able, God has, to bring the psalmist from the lowest depths of despair into light and even into joy. The psalmist expresses in most beautiful terms, one may lie down weeping at nightfall, but at dawn there are shouts of joy. An alternative translation is, tears or weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning. In other words, sadness and tears are temporary. Joy comes in the morning. But joy is also temporary. Feelings are transient. Emotions come and go. The one thing or being that can always be counted on is the Holy One, God. The psalmist questions God and challenges God in a sense. He starts off by saying, when you hid my face, I was terrified. I was afraid because I felt cut off from you, from God. I called, I made appeal to you when I was feeling either physically chased or threatened, or emotionally threatened, deeply depressed, feeling that he was in danger of perhaps even taking his own life. It could even have been that desperate. But he cried out to God, and he challenged God, and he said, "What gain would there be from my dying if I were to descend into the pit, not only emotionally, but actually physically by dying? Can dust praise you? Can it declare your faithfulness? When I die," the psalmist claims, "I will return to the dust from whence I was taken, but the dust itself, which will absorb my body and my soul, will not be able to praise you, God." And why should that even matter to God? Does God need the praise of the psalmist? Does God really care whether 1 or 10 or 200 or 2,000 or 2 million human beings praise God? Why should it matter to an infinite and holy being such as God? Well, I think the inference, at least to me, is that God does care, that God does need our praise, that as part of the psalmist's challenge, the psalmist is essentially saying to God, I need you, but you need me. Because in order for your holiness to be magnified and sanctified in this earth, you need people to come forward and praise you and thank you and glorify you. So what benefit is there if my life is taken from me? Because that will be one less soul, one less person there to praise you. It's actually quite a remarkable theological statement here, in my opinion. Something else about this psalm that is interesting to me is the fact that this psalm is recited every morning in many synagogues, not only at the beginning of the service, but during the holiday of Hanukkah, at the end of the service, at the very conclusion of the service. This psalm is repeated because of the reference at its very beginning. A psalm of David, Shir Chanukat Habayit LeDavid, a song of dedication, of Chanukkah for the temple. And as we know, Hanukkah celebrates and marks the victory of the Maccabees and the Jews against the Syrian Greeks, who overran Eretz Yisrael, ancient Palestine, in the middle of the 2nd century BCE, and stripped the Jewish community of its ability to observe and to follow the dictates of their tradition and their religious life. The Maccabees rose up in rebellion. They were victorious. They entered the temple in Jerusalem. They sanctified the temple and purified it of its idols. And they rededicated with Chanukkah Habayit, the holy temple. We think of the Hanukkah lights, the lights that are increased each and every day from 1 to 8. We think of the magnification of light and of holiness and joy. And then we turn to the end of the psalm. You turned my lament into dancing. You undid my sackcloth and girded me with joy, that my whole being might sing hymns to you endlessly. O Lord my God, I will praise you forever. Now that I am released from the depths of depression and despair, God has turned my lamentations into dancing. And the reason and the purpose for that is that I now may be able to sing hymns of praise to God. We will learn many lessons as we go through these dark days of the pandemic. But one lesson I am sure we will learn is that when these days are over, when our days of lamentation are turned into dancing and joy, our whole beings, we hope, will rise up to sing hymns of praise to God. We will come out of this with a sense of mourning and sadness, but also with a deep feeling of gratitude. And we will hopefully come out of this with a rededication and rededicated purpose to living a sacred and righteous life in praise and in devotion to God. Thank you.